we had this idea that kids are capable of learning more complex ideas than we give them credit for. But the theory kind of needed to be tested. Before we began homeschooling, we started getting our kids excited about this one course that my husband and I had watched on ancient Egypt. It was taught by Professor Bob Breyer, and we watched it via the Great Courses. Professor Bob Breyer is an amazing teacher. He's really compelling as well as, of course, informative. So we began telling the kids about this super cool guy that was going to teach them all about the great pharaohs in the past. Well, the course is meant for adults, and Luca and Serena were only 7 and 9 years old at the time. However, we knew they could get something from the experience. We began watching the courses during our dinner time in order to keep things just a little bit more low-key. And we certainly didn't do any quizzes for them or, make them write comprehensive papers on what they were learning. We just wanted them to dive into the excitement, the mystery of ancient Egypt. And they really, truly did. At one point, Professor Bob Breyer talks about his experiences in learning how the mummification process worked. And so we found a way to get a chicken and kind of do the mummification process ourselves at home. It was actually kind of gross, but really, really interesting. And of course, the kids learned a ton. So I'm totally not kidding you when I say that a tagline in our house became, "Hey, Mom, Dad, can we watch a Bob?" I mean, how cool is that? That kids that little were that enthused over something that adults were also geeking out to. But I mean, that's the cool thing about history. It's a shared experience that we all can partake in. About a year after we watched that course, Luke, my oldest, he found out that another one was coming out from the same company about how to write ancient hieroglyphs. Or I guess I should say how to write in ancient hieroglyphs or hieroglyphics. He would know, I do not. And he said he was going to take the course. I thought that he was probably not going to get past the first couple lessons, but he would wake up and the first thing he would do at 7 a.m. is grab a pad of paper and turn on the Great Courses in order to learn how to read hieroglyphs. We had a homeschool room at the time, and up on the walls were all these, 9.5 by 11 sheets of paper with the alphabet in hieroglyphs. And at some point, he even wrote fan letter to this professor. I will say that the letter did go unanswered, but that's okay. We still love Professor Breyer. So as homeschooling works, you just keep finding these opportunities to grow their knowledge base by getting them enthused, giving them opportunities to push into it a little bit more. So as we began our travels, the next summer, I want to say, to Europe, we decided that we would fly out of New York City and we would go to the Met. And while we were at the Met, we would give Luke the opportunity to finally go to the exhibit on ancient Egypt that they're really well known for. When we were there, it was pretty cool to see him standing in front of these, what do they call them again? Stelas. And it's kind of like where they write the names of the kings in. And he'd be standing in front of it and he would translate for us.
Okay, we're here in Pernab's tomb.
Where it
Of the high official of the pharaoh. I did this on the course. I translated this. It's kind of hard to see, but over here we have those plants signify thousands, and the duck head and the boar head. And if you go up a little bit, you could kind of see like this lump right here. That's bread in that little pot, which is kind of hard to see. And that signifies the thousands of food, like bread and beer, that he will be sacrificially given.
In his afterlife.
In his afterlife.
So like I kind of hit upon, there were times when I wanted to say, this is ridiculous, let's put them back in curriculum that, yeah, sure, talks about ancient Egypt, but for 5th graders, for 2nd graders. But instead, we thought it was more important that we took our enthusiasm that we had for something and shared it with our kids. And that if we did that, they would grab onto it even more because, of course, at that time, they actually thought we were cool. I don't know that that's the case anymore. but it worked back then.